Well, it's that time again. Time for us to get it poppin'. This is Let's Get It Poppin', my cEDH slash pauper commander talking show. I still haven't found a good intro for this yet, but I'll get there. It's only the 4th episode. Give me some time. Welcome back. I'm your host, Izlain. I am joined again by two longtime friends of the channel and the guys I edit for The Common Theory, represented here by Gator, aka Chris, and Kunx, aka Franklin. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me once again on the internet.
Yeah, anytime. I'm doing super well. It's been a pretty nice week. Weather's been fairly nice.
It's raining here. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, you will love the rain. I actually walked back home from the gym today. It was like a light little sprinkle. It was nice. It was enjoyable. It wasn't terrible. But
I
Gator,
like the rain because we don't get much of it. But yeah, Gator, go ahead.
Oh, dude, I literally cannot complain. Finally, the family's gotten over all their colds and sicknesses. We're all happy, go lucky. Weather's been beautiful. It's been great.
Cool. Well, glad to hear that everybody is doing well. I'm doing well myself. Nothing to complain about. It's my normal day off, just chilling. I actually just found out a cool thing. So I don't know if you guys remember this thing, the PS Vita.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the third or fourth version of the PlayStation Portable. Anyway, I bought it back like at the beginning of the pandemic because I was like, ooh, I could play not only Vita games that I had never played, but then like you can play PS1 games, you can emulate shit, you can do all kinds of stuff. And I jailbroke it immediately, put a bunch of stuff on there. Well, there was this program called Moonlight, and it allowed you to essentially stream. Your PC plays the game, but it streams it to the Vita, and you can play your PC games on your Vita, like while you're sitting on the couch. I was like, that's dope. Nice. You know, it's something that was, predates Steam Decks and all that stuff now. That's obviously better, but I was like, that's a cool thing. Problem is, it's only got a 2.4 gigahertz wireless chip in it, and it lags. It's not very good. So I just discovered the other day, didn't know it existed, but Steam Link, you can download a little app on your phone, and you can play the same way. It just streams to your phone. Well, I tried it, and the touchscreen controls were kind of shit. So I have an Xbox controller, so I went and ordered.
Oh, did you buy the phone holder for it?
Yeah, I got the little clip holder. So the controller goes here, phone clips in there, and then you just sit there holding the controller and playing your fucking computer games on your phone. I was playing in the bedroom this morning. I was like, this is dope. I'm so glad I bought it.
Who needs an NVIDIA Shield? Do they still make NVIDIA Shields anymore?
I don't think so, but that technology is actually rolled into the NVIDIA software on your PC.
Okay, that's what I figured.
You can still do game streaming through that, but I've never tried it. But this is just download an app, buy a thing for $10. I already had the controller. I checked it out this morning. I was playing Fallout New Vegas. So I was like, this is awesome. Like, I am going to get some use out of it. Because a lot of times my girl will be like, oh, I want to watch a movie. And I'm like, yeah, cool, but I want to play this game. And then I'm in here and she's in the other room. And it's like, well, now I could be playing the game and sit there while she watches a movie. And, two birds, one stone kind of thing. So that was my my little fun update for the week, I guess. So with that said, topic at hand today is what we're calling lessons learned from other formats. So obviously this discussion video series here on the channel is about Pauper. Specifically competitive Pauper, because I don't really play casually. But it's still Pauper Commander, so it's EDH, but with all commons. You guys should know this by now. We've talked about it enough. These two guys host along with Rohan, a competitive-focused Pauper podcast, and have been doing so for, 60-something episodes, almost 70 episodes now?
Yeah, the 1-year anniversary, the 2-year anniversary, I think it's coming up in later this month.
Nice, yeah. I'm rolling into 4 years on YouTube in July, so yeah, it's been a minute. But yeah, so this is kind of focused on that. Most of you who have been following this channel for a long time know that I mainly focus on the cEDH side of things. Got my start with 60 card and all of that, but then eventually rolled into Commander proper and then got competitive and just haven't really looked back. When I jumped into Pauper, same thing. I skipped right over casual, went right to the competitive, got my ass handed to me a lot until I finally figured out what the hell was going on. And now I love it. And so we wanted to talk about lessons learned from other formats that aren't Pauper that can be applied to Pauper, or, really in any competitive setting, especially in EDH, which is multiplayer. There's a lot more facets and things that go into your decision making and everything else, because in 60 card it's 1v1. You've only got to worry about that one guy. all the information is in front of you. You see how many cards he has in hand, you see his board state, and you just have to manage that one opponent, which kind of narrows it down and simplifies a lot. When you add 3 other players, it becomes a big ass cat and mouse tic-tac-toe rock paper scissors shotgun thing. And so we thought that there was some things that we could talk about from our experience in playing other formats that might be able to be applied to competitive Pauper. So I think we should start with 60 card. The only experience that I really have with 60 card is standard, and that was years ago, and I never played very competitively. I never went to, RCQs or any of that other shit. So, but I know Gator, and I think you do as well. You guys have played 60 card at least somewhat recently. So one of you wants to start talking about 60 card and maybe some stuff that you picked up along the way?
Yeah, so I'll start. I played a lot of standard, mostly F&M standard, towards the end of Return to Ravnica block and at the beginning of Battle for Zendikar block. My biggest lessons learned from there is just find a deck that suits you the best and just focus on getting really good and proficient with that one deck before trying to go somewhere else.
Finding your playstyle, so to speak?
Yeah, because what's super funny is that super recently Gator got off 20 60 card Pauper decks. And he said, whatever you do, don't play elves. Yeah, whatever you do, don't play elves. Elves are super complicated. I'm like, what are you talking about? Elves are super easy. Pick it up. And he just sees me play it beautifully as if it was I've been playing it for years. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is easy. All I have to do is add up how much mana I'm making, which is really easy on the fly because I have Birchlore and these Nettle Sentinels, which I kind of did mess up because I keep forgetting that Nettle Sentinel untaps every time you cast a green card. But Gator was just wow, do you actually know how to play this? Yeah, it's easy. That's, again, years of playing red-green monsters with, the Burning Tree Emissaries, going into your land and tapper, going into 2 Nykthoses. The math just adds up, and here's a Pelucanos on turn 2 that's going to monsters and eat and board wipe you.
That sounds wild. That is one thing I do like about 60 card is just having the multiple copies of cards. So nice.
I miss that sometimes a lot in Commander.
Yeah. I mean, we do have enough printings of certain things, your thrills and all that, where you have enough to where it's kind of like having a couple play sets worth, but it's not the same because it's not like that 1-for-1. This is the best version of this spell, and I have 4 of them. I can't even imagine playing for 4 Vamp Tutors. That's crazy.
Yeah, that would be
that would be crazy.
So let me hit you guys with a little bit of this stuff. So 60 card experience. I essentially used to play every 60 card competitive format, even as far back as Extended. So way too long ago.
Mm-hmm. Before Modern existed.
No, before Modern.
Before Modern existed, yeah. I was a Legacy head. Legacy and Vintage. I used to borrow my friends' Vintage decks. To this day, I still have a few friends that play Vintage. They attempt to give me their decks to play, and I just refuse to do it because of price points and things like that. I don't want to be responsible for that kind of money, is essentially what it is.
They're a little pricey.
Yeah, exactly. But the one thing that I would definitively say would assist you by playing a 60 card format is the feel bads. There's just certain situations where you're like, nothing I do here will allow me to win this game. You scoop it up, you move on, and you go forward. And you go, was there a way that I could prevent that instance from happening? 9 out of 10 times in Legacy, the answer was no. So I'm going to talk about a deck from many moons ago. It's called Rug Delver. One of the original names for it was Canadian Threshold.
Sounds like Muff Diver.
Yeah. This was one of the decks that existed because Termagoyf was popular, Delvers of Secrets was popular, and Nimble Mongoose was popular. These 3 cards were able to be the backbone of a deck that essentially stopped you from having any resources in the game at all. But the deck had one fatal flaw. It beat every combo deck in the format and lost to every single fair deck. And when I mean fair, a joke that we used to do, me and my buddies, we would take a standard deck, any of them, literally any standard deck. We would sleeve it up and we would go, bro, play me with your Rug Delver deck, because our buddies would be like, dude, this deck is the best deck, bro, nothing could beat it, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, dude, here's my standard deck. They're like, what is your standard deck? I'm like, dude, it's like doo-doo. It's standard, bro. I got Squadron Hawks and crap in it. They're like, oh, dude, I'll play you. Can't ever win a game against a single standard deck. because the way the deck was configured with its Force of Wills, with its Dazes, with its Wastelands, with its Stifles, it was specifically catered to a metagame.
Right.
So if you brought in this like offset deck, it would just hose this overpowered deck. Which
I mean, that kind of is the same thing. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, you're good.
There's a kind of that same sort of dynamic between like top end TEDH, like tournament cEDH decks, and like crappy casual ones, where the casual one sometimes will just beat the shit out of the highly optimized one, because the optimized one is there running handfuls of counter magic and things that, and not really having anything worth countering, or does counter what it can, and then, just kind of sits there and gets its face beat in because it's used to only running 2 creatures or 0 creatures because it's a polymorph deck or whatever, and it just gets its face beat in before it can even do anything. On the flip side, sometimes you get the nut hand or whatever, or you have a really fast turbo start, and you can just crush everybody in pub stomp if you like. But I think it happens.
I think that's applied to like essentially every like multiplayer format. Like that happens in cEDH, that happens in casual EDH, it happens in casual PDH, and it also happens in competitive cPDH, right? Because our decks are going to be geared for certain things and to do certain things. It's kind of funny because like a lot of people will be like, here, I brought my random like build thing that I bought, like it's like a precon, and it just so happens to be a cEDH deck, right? As an example. But what ends up happening is you're like, all right, now I'm going to take this to a tournament because I was able to beat this cEDH deck. And you play against like 3 turbo decks, round 1, 2, and 3.
And you're done.
You lose on turn 1 and 2, and you're like, but I was able to beat that other deck. And the other deck you played was like Tymna, TNT, right? Or like Tymna and Crom, something along those lines, which aren't going to do those specific things to you because they're going to try to play the long game.
Right.
And you end up falling into this like awkward, like feel bad where you just can't figure out why this sequencing is happening. The reason I bring that up specifically, Izlain, which I think you'd appreciate this, is it brings you all the way back to 60 card. So in Legacy, when you play that like Rug Delver deck, you have the worst feel bads when your opponent goes turn 1 fetch lane, and you're like, cool, I'll play my fetch lane, pop it. And they're like, oh, response, pop my fetch lane, stifle your fetch lane. They're like, oh crap. You're like, cool, untap, play a waste lane, tap it, play a Nimble Mongoose, go. And you're like, oh, I'm sitting with a duel in my hand. If I play it, he's going to wasteland me. What do I do? And you get into this like rhythm where you're like, I'm starting to understand play patterns. And 60 card teaches you a very good streamline of a play pattern where you could go, okay, I could do this in response. This just gets me dead. This is how I need to develop. This is a safer route. And if you apply that same metric to Commander, you could go, my deck can consistently cast a turn 2 Malcolm, but my opponents have consistently developed a play pattern to kill my turn 2 Malcolm. So how do I build my deck to facilitate me moving forward and moving forward and moving forward? Which is the easiest thing ever, because now you're teaching yourself base play patterns of your deck, and now you're learning how to adapt to your situations, which is just a very clean way to look at 60 and bring your 60 card knowledge into Commander.
Yeah, well, and then also it's just base game knowledge, knowing your cards, knowing combos, all of that stuff. The foundational stuff is going to be the thing that you have to learn. Like, as a cEDH player who was already playing at the top end or just under it for a number of years, I knew the ins and outs of everything. And when a new combo gets discovered, it's immediate. A spoiler comes out and it's immediate. Everybody's already on it. You know what the new combo is. Either you figure it out yourself or somebody's already spoiled that on Twitter or wherever. Keeping up with that stuff, doing your homework, so to speak, is kind of important before you even try to play super competitively, especially going into tournaments. And that was kind of the thing when I went into cPDH. It was like, I didn't know any of the combos. I mean, some that kind of translated from, like the Malcolm Kedis stuff. There's some of that is played in cEDH. The Arcanomancer loops and stuff, some of those are played. I've actually seen Nat combo in a couple cEDH lists recently because of just commanders that were printers. Yeah, like there's just, it happens.
I mean, that's his Valley Flood color.
Right.
Valley Flood color.
I would say, when I got into it to begin with, it was a bit of a learning curve because I, as a brewer, a habitual brewer, someone who is always I'm always brewing new things, but then also trying to update and or brew something that I never tried before that's an older deck, or just, you know, making a new deck for every single new set that comes out with whatever they give us, because that's just kind of the name of the content game, is like, come out with the new Aether Drift shit because everybody wants to see it. So I did that all the time, and like with I can build the average time it takes me to build a cEDH deck is probably sub 20 minutes.
Yeah,
like I slam them together like nobody's business, and usually they still do the thing because the combos are known. You know all the tutors, you know all the fast lands, you know all the fast mana, you know everything that needs to go into it in those colors. You know what the staples are, and then it's just editing 20 cards or so. So it's not super difficult. In Pauper, I can do that now in Pauper, but at first I was like thinking, okay, well, I know how to do this so well, I can just go in here because I'm taking my experience from one format and knowing that I should be able to build a good deck. And I'm not going to say that I built absolute garbage, but I definitely didn't build anything that was very good or even remotely competitive to begin with, because I had to learn all of the combos. I had to learn the new that sort of meta, and that meta from 2 years ago, or maybe almost 3 now, when I started, has changed a lot. And I think
that anything from like, I would say about a year ago doesn't exist anymore.
Well, I mean, there's stuff that's at the top and is going to stay at the top until something knocks it off the pedestal, right? And that's the same with cEDH. Like, Timna Crom is still top end. It always will be. Unless they come up with, you know, better 4-color commander or better 5-color commander or whatever. But like those staples, you know, the Malcolm Keddises and whatnot of Pauper are still going to be at the top until something comes along that's better. But as far as the rest of it, excluding the top, like, I mean, just your guys' tier lists show that it changes quarterly, where there's like stuff falling off and stuff coming in. So you have to expect the meta is going to shift, and I think everybody that has played anything competitively knows that. I mean, that's why Standard is a rotational format. That's why, you know, Modern.
That's the Modern's rotational format.
Right, they all are in a sense because they get new lifeblood. Nothing rotates out, but new stuff coming in all the time just makes old shit not good anymore because power creep and etc.
Yeah, and funny enough, that's actually a lesson that I learned from Yu-Gi-Oh! That Yu-Gi-Oh! Is technically an eternal format with ban lists. And I learned ages ago, it rotates every set. There's going to be a new deck all the time.
Right.
I'll be devil's advocate here for you guys. So I technically don't completely agree with you. So the reason I say that is because you also have the new card problem. So essentially what the new card problem is, the new hot kit on the block, right? So if we use cEDH as an example, right? So let's just say Hollow Marauder. It's a relatively new card, right?
Yeah.
So Hollow Marauder comes out. And Hollow Marauder is, I know this is going to be a little bit far-fetched for some people to believe, but it's somewhat comparable to Sir Conrad. If you look at the way the decks are even built, they're actually incredibly similar.
Well, they're both mono black too, at the base, and then, yeah, they're going to have the same access to the same staples.
Yeah, so here's the difference between them. When Hollow Marauder came out, everyone wants to build it. So you're going to actively see that, and things like that dictate metas. They create shifts. So if you know a card that's going to cause you to discard is going to exist, you're able to change who you are in the way you're playing the game, right? You'll be like, well, Hollow Marauder can't be... This is a fictitious example. I'm not saying this is the way it is. This is just me making things up. So
you're not an expert. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, random example. You guys can yell at me in the comments. These are not real examples. I'm just making them up as I go. So Kedis Kellis can beat Hollow Marauder forever, right? But if you know there's going to be 20 Hollow Marauders that are going to show up to the next tournament, what would you do? You would bring Kedis and Kellis, right? So you'd be like, well, that deck will always beat Hollow Marauder, so I'm going to bring it. And I know this is going to be because the card just came out in the brand new set. 12 people are playing it in the meta. I go on some online games. Everyone's playing it there. So now you know how to base your play patterns around what your opponents are going to bring. And that's a consistent thing that happens in cEDH. It happens in all formats, right?
New tech.
Now, exactly. Yep. But I will give a quick caveat on the power creep notion that you guys are talking about. I can't argue against that because I do believe the Horizon sets do create this shift of like, this card shits on you. And it's so good that you can't play the format now without this card. And I think that's just like, for instance, the easiest example
Raven
for
Charm.
cPDH is Raven Charm. Exactly what I was going to say.
I knew where you were
If you're
going.
in white and you don't play that card, that's
You're wrong.
like you're wrong. And it sucks to say that because I never did like the staples.
That kind of leans into like the gatekeeping thing. And like I would say some people would be like, well, that's your gatekeeping because you're saying that this card you're wrong if you don't play it. But I don't see it as gate. I think like gatekeeping is kind of its own distinction between that and like a new powerful card being introduced. Saying that you're playing it wrong because you're not using that card, I don't think that's gatekeeping. I think that's just factual. Like, you should be playing this because it is a fantastic modal card that sits right in a sweet spot at a common that, it's just how do you not play it?
Yeah.
Whereas gatekeeping is more like, you can't play this commander because we think it's not good enough. Like, that's kind of a shitty attitude to have.
It is. Yep. But like just the modes on it, just kill creature mode is amazing because it's at a really good rate. Base minimum, you're using it to blow up everyone's yards.
And that's not even bad because there's so much graveyard stuff going on. That too.
The enchantment mode is bonkers. Like that mode is absurd in cPDH. You got backgrounds, right? You got all your land auras, right? You got all your suiting up your commander cards. Like it's insane. You got random enchantment creatures. There's so many random enchantment creatures that people just ignore or they don't realize it's an enchantment creature. Like Spirited Companion, that's an enchantment. Like you can just randomly blow it up if someone decides to suit it up or do some shenanigans with it or do some abdo.
Or they're just, I was going to say, they're just flickering it a bunch to get value. You just get rid of it.
You blow it up, right? So there's so many applications you can have for these cards. Once again, I have to iterate this again. If you're trying to win, right? We're specifically talking about competitive. Izlain made it a point to be like, we're talking competitive side. If you're trying to win, you will play the best card. There's no reason to not, because the whole point is for you to win, right? So that's where the whole statement is. Well, if you're not playing Threader Charm, you're wrong because that card will actively win you a game or stop your opponent from winning a game to allow you to have the opportunity to win yourself. Those Horizon sets, I'm not sure still how I feel about them. I feel like they did great, but I also feel like, damn, like Evolution Witness and some cards like that for cPDH are bonkers. And if you don't know it already, I know you do, Izlain. Combination of implement a ferocity with that Evolution Witness. If you ever draw that, you're going to be like, I can't lose the game. Like, this is just, you go from no cards in hand, draw. You load your hand back up, and you have a giant Evolution Witness. I mean, the synergy that we have from these cards from the Modern Horizon sets is disgusting.
Well, I think part of that is because it's designed for Modern, and Modern is pretty busted in most regards. So the cards have to be better than what's already there for it to power creep, right? Or they at least need to be on par so that people are actually enticed to play, because otherwise why would they even bother buying the set? Because there's nothing that's really helping them out. I just like the fact that those and the master sets and some of the other things that do reprints have allowed for them to downshift cards to make them playable in Pauper, which that's always exciting because some of the cards that you're like, man, if I could just have this as my commander, and then it gets downshifted to uncommon, you're like, I can finally do it.
And that's usually when we get all the good cards every single year.
Yep.
Because most of the stuff that's getting printed into standards is kind of boring. Because like Ether Drift didn't really, even though we did the set review, I don't think we really saw anything too impactful.
There's a couple cards that I was into, like that which we didn't talk about it in the set review. I was kind of kicking myself after, was the wreck remover, the one where each.
I thought we did.
I think we skipped over it. Maybe we did. I don't recall at this point, but I'm pretty sure we skipped over it. Either way,
I forgot about
or attacks, and it exiles a card from a graveyard, and then you gain a life, and it's just like, how does this exist? This is so good. Like, there's so much. I could see playing that in other formats too. So like, it's just pretty good. But overall, the standard sets as of like the last couple years have all mostly been kind of meh, with a few cards here and there sprinkled in for competitive players. The rest being all standard focused, and I don't play that, so I don't know. But the Horizon sets, the Battle for Baldur's Gate Commander Legends shit, the Commander Masters, and some of those other double masters and blah 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 that just are reprints, but sometimes do some of that downshifting, has really shook up the meta quite a bit in the last couple of years. To a point where I'm like, when those cards like a Thraven Charm get printed at common, you're just like, what the fuck? Like Thraben Charm feels good enough for cEDH, really. I mean, I don't play it in any list, but I bet it does. Yeah,
it's East Play. Like, there's some certain cards that we have that are just like absolutely bonkers for like some of these new shifts. Like, we have some cards that now specifically talk about cEDH, right? cEDH is in a very weird place right now. I think you could agree with me, Izlain, with the whole. This is going to sound weird, but I know if you cEDH guys out there listening to this, you'll agree with me on this one. We're back to a flash meta, but not the flash meta with the Protean Hulk stuff. Flash meta as in, if you attempt to win, I'm going to try to win on top of you. And when I try to win on top of you, my other opponent attempts to try to win on top of me. Yep. And then I have to figure out how to win on top of them. And then here comes the fourth player trying to do that to me because we have these Valley Flood colors, right?
And there's like 4 of them or something. There's like 2 or 3 blue ones. There's the one, the Battlethopter. There's the fucking the white Gandalf. Like, there's a ton of ways to do that too. It's crazy.
Yeah, the new fairy is just absolutely busted.
High Wild Fae or whatever the hell it's called.
And here, just for an example, just to show you guys that I'm also in the boat with this play pattern. There's my Valley and my Retraction Helix right there. Bum, bum, bum. You got to play it. Like, if you're trying to win, you will play these cards.
I play it because one of my main cEDH decks and one of my oldest that I've brought back from the dead recently was Zur. OG Zur the Enchanter, and being on Necropotence, needing those flash enablers is a big deal because you can use the stuff as it hits the grave, but before, with a Yawgmoth's Will or whatever, you can hit it before it actually goes to exile, and you need the flash speed to do that. Emergent Zone is another one that we didn't mention, but still sees play as well.
Another gross one. Yeah, I also play that in the deck with Valley Flood Color. Crop rotation exists, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's if you learn, and I think the biggest takeaway that I could truly say to the audience you have here is your play patterns. If you learn your play patterns for your deck, which you would gain that from a 60 card format. So you're like, okay, I could create this. Even if my opponents try to stop me, I have outs with this card and that card. And your play patterns teach you to play your outs. Even if your opponent's like, you have no ability to win, you're like, I know my deck, the top of my library could be one of 9 cards. I still could win if I see this card. Yep. So you play your outs. Now, there's a caveat to that, which I think you would agree to this one too. I believe that can only apply in cEDH with the decks that are at the higher tier level.
Playing to your outs, I think, too, notably, should not include kingmaking, which is one of the major points that I wanted to make at some point. We don't need to do that right this moment. But playing to your outs is not the same thing as taking actions on your way out. If you are dead on board, or you are in the middle of a combo loop, and this doesn't matter what format you're in, if somebody else is comboing off and you don't have a way to meaningfully stop that combo, then take your L and move on to the next game.
Well, so once again, I agree, but I think once again that can only be applied again because of the way cEDH is constructed, right? Yep. We don't have a lot of the top end. Right. So that could be applied to the decks that could just go freed off the top, you lose, right? Or
Pirate Changer.
Pirate off the top. Like, those decks can do that. There's a few exceptions to the rules, like a Dargo deck. Oh, shit, I drew the double strike, or I drew the haste card. I could kill you now, right?
Or in your situation, I'm playing Abdo and more flickers off the top.
Right? Yeah, but there's very few on the top end of the spectrum in cEDH. So the out terminology is a little bit more difficult there because you could be playing in a pod where there's only one deck that could apply this, right? So you're like, well, I don't have to worry about the other decks because they're going to try to poke me to death or hit me. So I don't have to worry about this metric. So the other thing that brings us to, which once again, I think you would agree, Izlain, and Franklin, I know you agree with this one, is knowing your format. You have to learn it just a little bit, at least the top end, and then their fringe, like what decks are trying to beat those decks. I know that's a weird one, but like if I'm playing Timnacrom in cEDH, and I'm the top of the hill, right? Yeah. What decks are coming after me? And when you learn what that is, you'll be successful because you're like, oh, the Sisseys, they're insane right now. They even teched a card against me to try to hit my graveyards, right? Or like this other deck is teching this now.
Kinnins and your fucking Nagilas and
exactly.
Yeah, right. Your top end tier list stuff, which some people don't like tier lists as a metric, but those I don't remember. It's not it's EDH top 16 or something like that. There's a website that exists that shows you tournament results from all cEDH tournaments, and there's a lot more of them in that format than there is in our format. It's the same sort of thing that Clay and some of the other people do with their data collection and quarterly updates and stuff. It's the same idea. It's just on a larger scale. But yeah, you look at those, and it's like the top end has been the top end for literal years. It's all of the partner pairings. It's the Kenrith, the Nagilas, and other things that break the rules by being a one-color card, but having Wooburg on them, so they're ridiculously cheap and have all these abilities or whatever. The Kinnins, the Magdas, and things like that. And then there's the more fringy stuff that you'll get a win here or there with, like Tivit came out of nowhere, got some wins when Noda did. Urza's won stuff. There's staple-ish type decks that will always be around, but then they ebb and flow because like Dockside kind of made it to where a lot of decks like Tivit and stuff were kind of feeding everybody else's Dockside, and then those people were winning. So then it was like they either needed to figure out a way to stop artifacts from being used, but that would hurt them as well. So it was kind of like a weird situation where like a lot of those types of decks would just kind of stop. And then we had the bannings, which was a huge deal, made a lot of people sad, mad, whatever. And as soon as Dockside was gone, it was like, well, I can play Tivit now and I'm not feeding anybody. This is amazing. Or any other deck, Urza and etc. that plays a lot of rocks, they didn't have to worry about feeding Docksides anymore, so perfect. And the meta opened up a bit again. But then now the Flash thing is happening, and it's only certain decks can really use that stuff. So those are like the top end decks, and the other decks are just struggling for their own positions. So it's a thing that's going to happen regardless of format, and it's always.
Yeah,
it's always
I think the lesson from that is play blue.
Well. So I'd like to give a quick caveat to what you're saying, Izlain. Tell me if you think I'm wrong, though, because I'm trying to apply it to what you said. So if you don't agree, please let me know. But I believe the metric obviously can only apply if those decks are even seeing play, right? So there's months where like people don't bring Kinnan literally at all, and they just didn't get enough results. So a lot of players have been like, oh, well, Kinnan sucks now, so that's why it doesn't. And you're like, no, it doesn't suck. It's a great deck. But like, that was California, and there's a lot of people in California that don't play Kinnan. But then you go to, Jersey, and there's a ton of players that play Kinnan, and then all of a sudden you see Kinnan winning that month, right? So I think it's a similar metric we have for cEDH.
Well, then there's also Europeans and stuff too, that their meta is completely different.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they also play differently.
Yeah, so
that's a different problem.
Agree, but if you go like, well, Late Lore Reaver for cPDH, right? Well, that deck sucks, and it's like no one's playing it. Like you can't say it sucks or like try to take it off of like one of the best decks of the format if actively no one is playing it, right?
Correct.
So it's
and that, I wasn't saying that the EDH top 16 thing was like the resource to tell you what the best things are. It's just if you look at those things and the data that people have gathered, you can kind of glean what the top end is, and you can get an idea of what it is you should be looking for as far as like what my opponents might be in a tournament. But then there's going to be those random outliers that bring some trash that you're like, this is not even good. And maybe they even sneak a couple wins and get into like, top 16. And then you're like, what am I playing against this garbage? And then all of a sudden they 4-0 with Magda, who nobody gave a fucking chance, and win a whole ass tournament. And you're just like, with Magda? What?
Yep.
So,
maybe when Magda first came out, but
yeah, well, I mean, that's what I'm speaking of. When it 4-0'd and won a tournament, it was still, I think that was the first time it had been played in a tournament. Or one of the first times where it actually had some success. So, you hear about these stories and it is what it is. But and we obviously follow the cPDH tournament series stuff. So there's, Sanctuary and Common Cause. Those are the bigger ones, but then there's RIW and whatever the one that
Riches to Rise.
That one. And I'm sure there are probably dozens of other ones that we don't know about because they're not online. They're just played at LGSs and stuff. So there's a ton of information from every single format that's not recorded anywhere online that we can't even begin to grasp, because there's a lot more Magic players out there than those of us who are so enfranchised. We're like, I want to make a podcast, or I want to make gameplay. We're a select few, so to speak. So
definitely don't disagree.
When we're out here, promoting it and trying to grow it as a format, like, we're still only hitting eyeballs that are online, that are actually going on YouTube and looking for this content, or just accidentally finding it. The people that are out there actually just playing at the store and aren't super uber connected to all this other shit, they're doing their own thing and having their own metas and having fun and whatever, and hopefully not fighting with each other as much as some of us are doing. But, hey, it is what it is. So one thing I wanted to mention, well, two things really. And these are the lessons that I could say that I've learned specifically from playing cEDH for years. And the two concepts that I've already talked about before, maybe briefly here or there, they're going to come up in conversations a lot, because these are things that happen in games that piss people off, that get people thinking, negative thoughts about other players or the format in general or whatever. So one of them is spite play, and the other is king making. And I think before I played cEDH, I did both. I think everybody has had some moment of, because it's kind of almost encouraged in EDH. Like, and even if you watch like old Command Zone or like old, gameplay videos from like 5-6 years ago, those were big names in the sphere, because they were, famous for doing this. They had however many subscribers and whatever, and they were most watched. And you would see them be like, well, since you attacked my thing, I'm going to kill your thing. And like, that's obviously a spite play. It doesn't improve your chance to win. It's just, I'm doing this because you pissed me off. And I remember having those same sorts of fights with friends, just playing around the kitchen table or playing at the LGS, and this guy does a thing, and you're like, dude, that's fucked up. Whatever, man. I don't want to play with you anymore. So I think we've all done it. But when you get to that higher end, even if you're not playing in tournaments, there's still like kind of this unwritten rule that if you're not doing something that helps you actively win the game or actively stop someone else from winning the game, you probably shouldn't do it, right?
Yeah, but to play devil's advocate, because I've been told by like someone from authority that it's all right to just try to blow something up on the your way out, in case it gives you like a 0.1% chance.
And that's something that I want to argue against till I can't breathe anymore, because that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. Hang on. Yeah, so I've heard that actually quite a bit. I've been in many conversations with a lot of people about things of that nature. And the whole argument is predicated based upon like percentage points, which I've never really understood. But I'm going to kind of spell it out here just a little bit. They go, oh, well, you have 0% chance if you don't take this game action. So doing this would give you like 0.01. And I was like, you realize that that's like
still zero?
Minimal? It's still zero. Yeah.
Right? So like you saying that, and ironically, it convinces a few players. And I'm like, you convince them to essentially say, jump off the building. I'll put a blanket on the floor so you don't get hurt. And you're like,
yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Like, you only break your legs and your spine and your hips, but you may not die. You will live a miserable existence for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, like I don't understand the arguments there. So
because there isn't an argument. It's fucking stupid, and I'm not afraid to say that.
To be fair, I do understand where it's coming from. Right? It's just
so do I.
Well, what if this thing happens, then this other thing, then this other thing, and then this could happen. If this could happen, you're like, bro.
Hooray, you're in magical Christmas land. Yeah.
Went down was like even worse. It's like, so here's a great example. A while back, I won a tournament with Malcolm Kettis on like the turn 3, the total nuts. I have literally not won a game since then. I play the deck all the time with Franklin and friends here at my house and stuff. Haven't won turn 3 literally since then. It's not something that actively happens.
No.
But players would go, dude, I literally watched him win on turn 3. That deck is bonkers. And they'll play the deck 50 times. And you get this like false thought about it. So it's also applied to like the fear of the unknown. I know you know what that is, Izlain. Especially a cEDH player. Kalia the Vast was like the first ever fear of the unknown. Like,
I love Kalia.
oh my
I
God,
still play her.
Is it attacking me? What's about to happen? And you're like, they attack and they either have like the nuts or
they got the Razaketh.
Yeah,
or
there's literally nothing, and
it's nothing, or it's a shitty little creature. Yeah,
yeah, or literally nothing. They're like, oh, I actually have no creature. I just attacked for 2, and you're like,
okay,
okay. And so, in a competitive format, one thing I like to apply, which you guys have played against me quite a bit, is I actually like letting other players do their thing. Because if we all...
Oh, you mean like not trying to influence what they're doing?
Correct. But
what a
allowing
concept.
them. So, like, for instance, the biggest thing I've said historically, and I know you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times, but I'm going to say it again because I think it applies perfectly to what you're displaying here, Izlain, is the whole metric based upon how good a deck is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a Gretchen at the table and you have a Malcolm Kedis at the table, 2 other decks are irrelevant. Pick any mid-range pile, any like B or C tier style deck. Good deck still, right? But just not as powerful as Malcolm Kedis and or Gretchen. The 2 other players go, Malcolm Kedis player, you're quick, you're fast, you're dead. And they both double team the Malcolm Kedis player. Malcolm Kedis player goes, dude, I'm a really good deck. You take these game actions against me, I'm a fight. And if you do, we're all just going to die.
Oh, that's actually really funny. Yeah, there's gameplay of that actually happening.
Oh, is there? So I actually didn't.
Yeah, it's my round 1 from Sanctuary.
So then you have Gretchen going, cool, I had to not take game actions to see this happen. And you just essentially turn it into the King of the Hill, what you were describing, Izlain. The king-making concept. That's another form of actively king-making because you're causing one player to use 0 resources. But now let's flip it. Let's actually do what, in my opinion, should be what actually happens. Don't mess with Gretchen. Don't mess with Malcolm Kedis. Play the game actively normal and watch the 2, what I like to call the Titans, punch each other in the face and see what they do. Gretchen's going to go for it. Malcolm and Kedis is going to stop it. Malcolm Kedis is going to go for it. Gretchen's going to stop it. They're going to beat the crap out of each other because they are equals and they will punch each other just like take, 2 Titans, let them slug it out like Rock'em Sock'em robots, right?
Evander Holyfield.
All to the ground. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're going to have tons of resources, but they burn them out. You got the last 2 decks that are like, cool. Let's deal with the scraps now, right? You got the freaking Velociraptors coming in here and the Wolves coming in here being like, yeah, free food. And they take them out. It's clean. It's smart. You're actively all playing the game and you're all able to do the thing and it works out perfectly instead of pushing a deck into a higher position than the other.
Well, and that's happened to me with like Arabella in the last tournament I played, where I had a game where everybody like dogpiled on me, and I'm like, I'm actively helping you guys win the game. You know that, right? Like me burning everybody out gets it to a point where you guys can win, unless you're a combo deck, and then, well, sorry, but yeah, I think that's silly because then again they dogpile on me. I use my resources to try and stop from dying or whatever. Do what I have to do to remove threats, and then, oh, lo and behold, there was a combo player over here. You guys left the fuck alone, and now, boom, they win. Cool, great.
Gator, and that entire example that you gave was literally my round 1 in Sanctuary. So me and the Gretchen player were fighting it out. I was putting 1 attempts on. Put 4 1 attempts out. Get stopped by literally everyone. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about in the last Kamikaze. Yeah. I watched that.
Sanctuary 8. Yeah.
Oh,
it was beautiful because again, we didn't mess around with the Gretchen, we didn't mess around with the Malcolm, we only affected the Lions and Tappers and the Pingers. Yeah, we messed around with Xiao Jun when we had to.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, and that's generally what it is. And king making doesn't happen in Pauper as much. I think the spite play stuff happens a little more often. The taking actions on your way out, literally had it in tournament where guys got fucking lethal coming at him in the attack step and is like, well, I'm going to cast this instant to blow up your thing. Why? You're just take the L, dude. You die. You're dead. On board. It's coming at you right now. There's no way for you to live. You don't have a way to remove it. You don't have a way to stop it, because it was like a black creature, and he had like a spell that hit non-black. He was on Hollow Marauder.
Yeah, but
yeah,
that's more of a player issue.
Let me ask you guys a question here real quick, because I think this is relevant, right? So something I've heard in the past. Now, this is a political move that you would do. Let's just get that out of the way right now. Right off the get-go, it's a political move. You would have to do this in the specific order, or it won't work. And even if you do this, it could be sketchy. So I really want to hear your guys' opinions, because I have heard this from quite a few individuals. So I really want to hear your thoughts. I'm the player that's dead on board. You're about to go to combat, and you're like, I'm going to take this guy out. And I know you're about to take me out. So I don't have to have knowledge that you're going to do this. Or I don't know, and I do this exact thing. I go, hey, Izlain, if you attack me, I will definitively cast this card, show you the card in my hand, go, I'll blow up your creature, and I'll put all my creatures in front of all your creatures, even though I'm dead no matter what. This is the tool that I have in my tool belt to stop you from taking this action, trying to keep myself alive. So you do it in the opposite order.
Right. So I think you speaking of it first and using it in that way to try and make a deal is completely different than just doing it after I've already declared attacks and then being like, well, I do all these things and then we assess damage and I'm dead.
I agree. Right.
But I also see the point of, like, people saying, well, I'm taking game actions to further my chances of winning. But, like, some simple math will tell you that you're still dead. So, like, why even affect that player? And then in that case, like, it kind of feels spidey, because then that player's down on resources. You've killed the one big thing that they had coming at you, and then potentially killed a couple other creatures that you blocked. So their board state is now less, and you're still dead. So how did that improve your win percentage? It didn't. You just spent resources to lower their win percentage chance while you're still dead. And in that case, I don't like it, and I don't think that's right. But if you just propose the action, and then the guy goes, well, now that you mentioned it, I might need you around. Just don't attack me on your next combat or whatever. They can make whatever part of the deal they want to make, and you move on with your lives. That's totally fine. I don't see that as being spiteful or king-making, but if you just did it without saying nothing and it really didn't do anything to help you, then I think you're kind of shitty.
I have to agree with something you said there, because you did say exactly what I wanted to hear, truth be told. Like, perfect. If it doesn't do anything to stop it, and you stop that player now from winning, and they were going to win, you're still king-making and you're still doing the wrong thing. Even if you attempted prior to do it, because, so for instance, right, this player isn't ahead, but they have the opportunity to get some sort of value by taking you out. But if you do the thing and go, hey, I'm going to block all your stuff, kill all your stuff, you've just taken them out of the game as well. So you are king-making, because you're making it to where that player is now not able to win themselves, and the other two now have the opportunity to win, or were already having the opportunity to win, and this player's trying to catch up.
In most cases, what we would consider king-making in cEDH is that you look at it as like the Mexican standoff. Everybody's got guns pointed at each other. They're all ready to pop off at any moment. And most games of cEDH that I've played where I've lost or won, immediately after, everybody's like, well, I just needed to get to my turn. If I untapped, I had this. And the other guy's like, well, if I got to my turn and I untapped, I had this. And the other guy's like, well, if I would have had the thing to stop you, I would have it. Yeah. And, like, people don't like that for some reason. I like it after the fact. Like, everybody knowing that, like, they were all right there on the cusp of, like, we were all right there. Our decks are competitive. We're all on the same page. We're all about to win at around the same time. But you just happen to get it, you lucky son of a bitch. And that's the end of it. But it's really king-making in those regards, where it's not so much in cPDH, because it's less likely that all four people are right there on the cusp of winning, whereas in cEDH, it happens all the time. So there is that notion of you doing this thing that you just described actually does take this guy out of the game and lets the next player win, because they are already right there. And it may not show on their board, but they may have enough mana or enough rituals or enough resources somehow to make that thing, because they have one half of the combo and they got a Vamp Tutor in hand. So they just go, okay, well, he's dead now? Cool. Or he can't do nothing now, he passes. Vamp Tutor on end step, get the fucking Thassa's, play the consult. I win. You know? So
I call it the pact of negation dilemma is what I love to call it, right? If you're the player, turn one, a player goes to go off, and you're like, pact you. And you're like, bro, you literally can't play for your pact.
And
what are you doing?
I also think that that's kingmaking. Or it's not kingmaking, but I don't think that that's a good play.
No, that's just a scumbag ass move.
It's like scooping at instant speed just because you think you don't whatever. You know, I fucking hate that too, man. Like, there's a difference between taking your L because you know you have the L, you're dead on board, the guy's coming at you, you know you can't do anything to effectively stop him from killing you. You can just do what you described where you can slow him down or hurt him on your way out. That's shitty. Shouldn't do it. Just take the L. That's fine. We all lose. Like, if you win 25% of your games in EDH, you're a good player. If you win less, well, maybe not so much. If you win more, you're fucking stellar. Or your deck's just fucking busted. One or the other. When it comes down to it, if you are taking those types of actions without actively increasing your win percentage, and we're not talking about 0.0001, we're talking about like 5, 10, 15, 20%. Like, this is actually, doing something to help you.
35 plus,
right,
dude.
Right.
5%, I'm not taking that shit, dude. No, 5%, bro, fuck out of here, dude. I'm looking for like 50, 75, like 90, like.
I was being generous by just saying it's not fucking zero. Dude. It's not zero. Anything above zero is better than just fucking zero. But
all right, how about this? Hit me with like a poker analogy, and I got like pocket kings. Yeah.
In what sense? You like me to give you a hand?
Yeah, just like, was it like I have like, let's say the crappy hand of like 6 and a 7. Yeah, it doesn't really matter the suit. I don't even know what the hell I would even bet because like I don't have enough money to throw out.
I don't gamble, so I don't.
Oh, it depends on the house. What the house has, right? House always wins. Depends what you got going on. You're playing 5-card stud, you know. You got to do your bets and stuff like that. I like poker. Play a lot of poker. I don't go to the casino because I don't.
Well, that's why you're the number one deceiver because you got that poker face.
Oh, dude, I love me some poker, bro. God, dude, you take.
Because I keep getting,
bro. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have a real good time.
Because I keep seeing poker shorts on my YouTube. So I was like, you know what? Because we keep talking about win percentage points whenever they do competitive poker and they have like the little stats on it.
Yeah,
I love seeing it go like, whoop.
The flop happens, and then all of a sudden their percentage goes out the fucking roof.
Yeah,
dude,
I remember when they do the World Series of Poker.
We should do
and shit.
Yes, dude. Love watching that, bro. I got slaughtered.
I never understood it, but I watched it sometimes.
Yeah. The first time I ever like lost disgustingly in poker was actually like a few months ago, dude. It was bad. I lost all of it. I was like, damn. It's like, you guys are good. And
well, that's because you win all the cEDH stuff, asshole.
Dude, it was my buddy's wife. Dude, she's a monster. She was like the most, like, she'd get a hand of like garbage. She's like, ha. I'm like, oh, she's got it. She's got it. And it was like a 2 and a 5. And she had actual nothing. And I'm like, everybody like quit. And then she has like the stone cold like nuts, like 4 aces, like 2 in the frickin' bank and 2 in her hand. And we're like, she don't have shit, bro. It's just 2 aces. And she's like, ah. And all of a sudden it was like, she just slams them on the table. And we're like, seriously, girl? Like, you got it all? Every time she's like, the cards love me. And I'm like, oh my God. And she's straight, completely sober. All of us have drinks because we're like just losing all of our chips, all of our money. And we're like
making bad decisions.
Like, guys, are we going to keep going against her? She's slaughtering us. I don't think any of us can win a game. Guy next to me is like, dude, I got $5 left. I'm like, I got like 400, but she's taken 600 already. Not sure we're supposed to keep going.
No, you don't know when to hold them and when to fold them.
No, you keep going, dude. You gotta keep it going. I get this.
Eventually, you'll get your money back, right? Right? Right?
Well, not against her, dude. She was bro. She had like
as they say
at the end of it, dude. She was a
Jesus
monster, dude. Yeah, dude. She was very impressive. I was like, dude, you are cool. I'm going with you to a casino.
Yeah, Izlain, like they say, 99% of gamblers quit right before hitting it big.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's so bad to say. That's the worst thing ever to say, dude.
So as someone who's worked in casinos for like literally like half of my adult life,
Yeah,
I have seen way too many fucking people spend their mortgages, spend their fucking everything, and I'd see, you know, same person in the same clothes for like a week straight has not left. Like, outrageous. So it's terrible. I don't gamble mainly because of that, because I've seen those examples over and over again, but on the same note, every time I've gambled, I've not won much, and I always end up putting it back, and it's just not for me. I'd rather, if I'm going to spend the money on something, I'll buy some beer, you know, buy something that's
why I don't
buy
open
a video
packs.
game. You know,
My pack luck.
That's probably the most gambling I've ever done is with
packs,
opening packs for sure.
I'm a pack addict.
I love it, dude. I love it too.
I can't not open packs.
It started for me with like baseball cards, and then ended with Magic cards, and it's just so many dollars.
The first booster pack my wife ever opens. This is in 2009. I'm going to show how old I am. We were buying packs of alliances on eBay for $6 a pack.
Alliances even have anything good in it that was worth money?
Force of Will, dude.
Okay.
So
I forgot about that.
First
I'm thinking of Legends. That was the one that was kind of shit.
Oh, we bought.
No, Legends is all money.
We bought Legend packs too, dude.
Is it really now?
Yeah, dude. I opened up she opened up a. Caracas.
What am I thinking of that's from that time? Like the Dark or like something? Homelands. That's the one that was pretty
super garbage.
Homelands and Fallen Empire.
Yeah, those are the two. I definitely opened a lot of those back in the 90s.
Yeah. First pack off the rip. Wife opens it. We're walking back from the mailbox. I'm living in El Paso, Texas at the time. She goes, "I finally got the booster pack, babe. What do I have?" And I was like, "It's alliances. You got a few packs." First pack she cracks. Pops it open. Now they're backwards ordered. So the same order that the new packs are now is the way they were back then. So like the rares are in the front, but they didn't have rares, they had uncommons. So first card off the rip, she opens the pack, rips the card clean in half.
Oh.
I'm like, what just happened? She goes, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." And she didn't really, I had just taught her Magic, so she didn't know like all the cards yet. She goes, "Oops," hands me the card, and I'm like, "Oh, this card's garbage." Okay. What's your next card? She goes, "It says it's Force of Will." And then she goes to the next one. I was like, "Wait, stop. Which one?" She goes, "Force of Will." I was like, "Yes, Force of Will. We want that one."
What was the card that she fucking ripped?
Oh, it's like Arcane Denial, I think, or some shit like that. It was just garbage. Yeah, it was just trash. But the Force of Will she opened, brand new out the pack, was like cocked all the way over. So it wasn't like centered at all. It was just like slid off to the side, so it had no black border on the right side, and just nothing.
Oh, somebody would pay a pretty penny for that,
dude. In that day, those styles of cards were big money.
I know that there's still a community for the misprints.
Yeah, dude, I sold that thing in a month, dude. Insta sold it for like 4 times its value. And the wife was like, "Wow,
yeah,
let's buy more packs." And then I was like,
"Yeah, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Yeah. You hit the goal the one time."
Yeah. So she's got the good luck, man.
I think we touched on a lot of the lessons that we wanted to talk about. I don't know. Do you guys have any like final thoughts to wrap things up here?
Personally, I think we covered it really well. Yeah. Thank you for having us on, though.
Yeah, for sure. Just don't get tilted. I guess it's like another big one that we should have touched on.
Getting tilted, definitely.
That's hard. That's
like its own entire episode.
Personality, yeah, that's a personality thing. I don't think that's it's very hard to like. If you get tilted, you get tilted. That's just kind of the way it is, my opinion.
Yeah,
but
indeed. All right, well, yeah. Thanks for helping me fill this one out, guys. I appreciate it. We're gonna continue to do this series, as I've mentioned. I've enjoyed doing it. Eventually maybe I'll have people that aren't commentary guys on here to talk, but lately these guys have been available, so it's just been easy, and also lots of experience between you guys, so easy to pick your brains about these topics. Other videos in the series are down below in the on the main page. There's a Pauper commentary playlist that has all of this stuff, including some of my older content. And then, obviously we got the gameplay videos. We do Pauper about once a month, cEDH all the time. I also have the cEDH focused podcast, No Effects, which we just released a video talking about the bracket system. It's a pretty good conversation. We ended up actually giving some real world examples of decks in the different brackets. Known ones, because ones, like, who the fuck is playing a 1? I don't know any. I've never met somebody playing a 1 in real life, but we got 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, all the good examples there. So it's a good discussion, me and the Rev. So you can check that out. We're also, on Twitter and Patreon and other places. I have a TikTok, which I should probably start posting on. I'm working my way up to doing some shorts and stuff, so maybe you'll see some more of that there. But definitely like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you are feeling extra generous, I have a lot of different stuff on Patreon. You get access to an entire archive of videos that are uncut from some of our streams, just to give you more stuff to watch, and you get a little extra banter that isn't necessarily there during the edited stuff, because I tend to cut a lot of that stuff out. So that's a thing. Also, I do brewmaster sessions, things like that. It's not coaching per se, as far as like, this is how you win a tournament. It's more like, this is how to build a fucking good mana base. This is how to build a good deck. I can do one-on-one stuff with that. And then some of the higher tiers, you can get merch. I have shirts, hoodies, all that good stuff, and playmats. And actually, I am working on the Let's Get It Poppin' stuff. Actually, shirts and merch, that sort of thing, is already actually live on my Bonfire store, which you can see in the show notes below. I submitted the design to Inked Gaming for the playmats. It hasn't been approved yet, but should be at some point soon. So hopefully you get that up here. And when all that happens, I will do a channel update video or whatever and let people know. But until next time, once again, thank you guys. Check out the Common Theory. I'll have a link to that in the notes below as well. These guys cover all the good Pauper shit. And apparently I'm going to be on one of the next episodes talking about the next tier list update. So look forward to that. But until then, everybody have a good night, day, evening, weekend, whatever the fuck it is. And we'll see you.
Yep. Take care, everyone.
Peace.